Welcome to the Sleeping Barber Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of our Cannes Cut, live from Cannes. Woo! We're trying to do things differently here, where we get to bring in different individuals to kind of talk about things that caught their eye over the last few days here at the Cannes Line Festival. So we'd love to welcome back got Matt, got Connor from Tracksuit. Wear your tracksuit still. You're off brand.
We're still working on the summer tracksuit for Ken. You don't want to see us in a full tracksuit at Ken. That's a dangerous thing.
I honestly, I bought myself a linen track jacket before I came out, and I've got it back up at the villa, but it's just too hot.
Too hot, eh?
It's just too hot. A second layer when it's 30 degrees. What's that in Fahrenheit? No, you.
Oh,
no, we're good.
We're the
yeah.
same. One of us.
Yeah. Fahrenheit. What's that? Whatever it is. Whatever that weird measurement is. It's 30 degrees.
We get that. So I think at the end of it, we're talking about the preamble. You've been here a couple times. This is your first time, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or was it the opposite?
He's been here. This is third and my second.
Oh, easy alum over here. Jeez.
Yeah. Big dog, Matt.
Woof. So what have you guys seen? Do we want to start with you?
Totally, yeah.
So what have you seen over the last couple of days that you were?
Do you know what the first talk I went into was with the Creative X, I think Creative Impacts, and that was James Herman, our co-founder. But I had the opportunity to share the stage with Laura, the CMO of Instacart. Oh, nice. And it was around the brand versus performance, brand and performance. Yeah. Is it a this or a that thing? I think everybody's aligned that it's an and thing now. But Laura from Instacart went through the 3-year journey that they've gone on at Instacart, where they had all performance marketing. Yeah. They didn't have a brand budget, and 3 years later they're activating with a Super Bowl ad.
Yeah, that's wild.
Like, that shows how you can change perceptions in a business, and Laura really went through how she went about influencing internal stakeholder buy-in to then get to where they are now, and it's a phenomenal creative platform that they've got. So that really stood out.
They're US based, I think, right? Is that
totally?
Is that true?
Yeah. I wasn't super familiar with Instacart myself. Living in London, until one of our team who's in New York, and Maddie said, all over it.
Yeah, there's a couple talks I've been to too, where the brand performance comes up, and this morning actually in the CMO series, like, it's branding performance. Let's just get rid of the separate thing. Like, it's just like we're kind of causing ourselves our own problems by just saying the two things are separate.
Totally. I mean, Corey last night about all the different terms of marketing. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, we were at a talk with Scott Galloway and Rory Sutherland, and then Corey, who's the CMO of Elf Beauty. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Scott Galloway's here?
He was. I don't know. He moves pretty fast, probably. He said brand is dead and then ditched.
Yeah, he left. Exit stage left.
Yeah. And he did comment on his own brand during that talk. So, I think he's a bit confused. But I think, like, getting into one of the things, Corey, I thought, stood out in that talk because Galloway had his talk track and Rory kind of had his counter-positioning talk track, and then Corey kind of just stood out for saying, I think it's all a little bit semantics. Like, this is what we did at Elf Beauty, and we created $1 billion of shareholder value in 18 months. I don't know. I can't remember the numbers exactly, so don't quote me on that. But, like, and then she it was like that. It's like, we do great marketing, and we do it in the best way for our brand, and it's kind of performance and brand. Like, it is hitting the mark, and it is driving value and driving brand love or consumer love or whatever you want to call it. And she said, let's not get into the semantics. Let's just do great marketing. Yeah. And everyone was like clapping and like, yeah, let's go, Corey. It was brilliant. Yeah. It was brilliant.
So I know you guys came in at different times. Have you been able to take on any of the, in the Palais, any of the other conversations that are happening?
I got the privilege of watching Connor speak in the Palais yesterday.
I heard this guy's good.
Yeah, that's right.
I heard he's good.
That's right. So Connor was up there in the bright lights, which is pretty cool. And then we've just been downstairs walking through the work. I think it's easy to come into Cannes and be, schmoozed by everything else that's going on in and around, but taking the time to actually walk through the work is brilliant. And shout out to our agency partner, Motion Sickness, out of New Zealand, who won the Grand Prix. And their whole campaign was around New Zealand's the best place to have herpes. So Go and check that one out. You weren't expecting that, were you?
No, surprise.
Effective though.
Very creative.
You guys were mentioning that you've brought on like a lot of the team members as well this time around. So how's the team being activated against the Lions this year?
Yeah, well,
The festival?
it's exciting because like we've been a couple times each, and maybe we've done a few talks. And James is always holds center court a few times at Cannes. James Herman, and so bringing the team here. We're 4 years old. Tracksuit is 4 years old now, and so being able to bring a couple of the team is just like quite fun because they've built enough of a profile in their specific areas, whether they're agency partners or sales, where they have their own connections to make here this week, and we sort of still do a few talks and do our bit, but they're all creating their own value and have their own relationships to foster.
Yeah. This is first time for us here, but it's interesting because we've been trying to book meetings, and this is the interview room. But as it turns out, there's a whole bunch of people that actually have not been, have never bought a ticket for the Palais.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even realize. And then the more and more people we've been talking to, like, I don't even bother getting the ticket for the Palais. There's all that stuff down the beach, and there's all that stuff in the city. And like, is that a thing that you've seen happening more, or as it grows, it becomes more accessible for people over the years?
I mean, that's what a lot of our team have done. The tickets for the Palais are super expensive, and if you're a startup or in ad tech business, you're sort of on a few panels maybe out on the outskirts, but you don't all have to be here because really it's relationship building, and where our offices,
That's a good point,
New Zealand, Australia, London, New York, and so everyone being in one place for a week means you can just get a lot done.
Love that.
Shout out to Cannes Lions though. Like, if you can get a ticket, you should get a ticket. But
Don't avoid the Palais.
It is like any conference in the world. Like any conference in the world
That's a
or
good
event,
point.
there's so many fringe events and people that tail on, and it's a great opportunity to meet people in one location. What I do like about Lions is that everybody's vaguely from the same industry and here for one reason.
It better be.
As opposed to, if you go, shout out to South by Southwest as well, but like there's so much variety of what's going on there.
That's a good point.
That when you get here, you've got, everybody's here for Cannes. It's been going. People know what to expect, know what to do. So I think there's something special in that.
Love that. So as a part of the Cannes Cut, we do what we call, and you kind of like, you seeded it a little too soon, but I'm trying
We can
not to
cut that in the
acknowledge it.
B-roll.
But it's like from the basement. No, we're going to run it. From the basement. And you talked about some of the creative work that you guys kind of walked through. Is there anything else that's caught your eye from the basement there?
Telstra?
Telstra, I'll go.
Yeah, Telstra. Brent Smart, the CMO at Telstra in Australia, a big telecommunications business, won one of the Grand Prix for the craft category. And we're really looking into it, and we're saying what they did was they made 26 different campaigns to highlight the coverage that they have in Australia, but really highlighting the coverage of their telco company in remote parts, but it was all built with stop motion puppets.
Oh.
And they ran it through the Olympics. I mean, the stats that came out was 4 years worth of sponsorship value in 4 weeks, or something like that. But the craft that went into this thing that Telstra's done, I mean, that's pretty incredible to see what they've done, and they took it out. So, love that
cool.
from Telstra.
Yeah.
Brent, nicely done.
Yeah.
And there was another one. I don't. It hasn't been awarded yet, so fingers crossed. But another New Zealand agency that was working on like New Zealand's favorite bread brand. So it's like it's the bread that we eat at home. So I'm like hoping that they win because it's great work. And the funny thing about this bread is that it's really hard to toast. It's like a very dense bread, like a dense, healthy bread. And so you have to toast it twice, but every toaster is different. And so this agency went and bought like every possible toaster in New Zealand and then figured out like it's a 5 and then a 4 for this specific toaster. And then they put stickers in every retailer on every toaster.
Oh, that's really funny.
Of like how you toast this New Zealand's favorite bread. And like I like bought one of those toasters with it, and it was actually like so helpful.
That's really
you're
good.
like, you're always like you buy a new toaster, and then you have like 2 weeks of sort of being like, oh, I burnt it again. Oh no, it's undercooked. Oh no. And so yeah.
Hopefully Vogel's.
That's great.
DDB.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
DDB and Vogel's. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you taken a walk down the basement?
We walked down yesterday. We haven't had a chance yet today, but the thing that strikes me is just it's I mean, there's like you kind of forget. You can almost forget that this is really about creativity. That you go downstairs and it's almost like the temple of all this stuff. You know what I mean? And just having time, like we really got to spend more time downstairs. But yeah, we just discovered it yesterday, and then we heard a talker talking about it today that you should go do this.
Yeah.
So we just didn't even know it existed until we found it. We're like, oh, it's a Shangri-La of like creative. We're like, oh, this is where all this stuff is.
Another benefit of it, it's air conditioned. There's a cafe down there.
There's that, yeah.
And if you need just a little breather from the week, it's quite a nice little space to go down to.
Yeah. But I think for me it's more just the accessibility of seeing literally creative from around the world and just being able to browse and spend as much time as you want looking at it and kind of thinking about it. I think that's really cool that, we're definitely going to spend some more time there this week.
Yeah, I mean, the judges in some cases spend 3 days locked away judging the work, and so there's a lot of time and effort that goes in behind the scenes, and definitely go down there and have a walk. Get in
the live judging. I think that's a thing. You can go. It says you can go watch the live judging.
The titanium upstairs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's just so much happening here. It's so overwhelming in some ways because you want to see all of it, and then realize that no, you can't go from here over there without, I don't know.
Well, that's
some kind of magic vehicle to get you there.
I mean, you would have looked at your WhatsApp, your iMessages, and all just the texts and the group chats are just going off. And I think you can come in with the best intention of I'm going to go to here and then here and then here, and then all of a sudden something happens and 4 hours have gone past and your whole schedule's gone out of the way. But if you've got 3 or 4 things that you want to do each day, and then you kind of just see where you end up.
Well, I think you guys can empathize with this coming from New Zealand, but like us was just adjusting to the time zone difference. We've been a shell of ourselves the first couple of days, but getting some real proper sleep has been great.
Oh, it was so hard for me coming from London. That's 1 hour.
Oh, you guys were both in London before you came here?
Oh, I was in New Zealand.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've got 3 little kids, like 4, 2, and a newborn. So
perfect
I'm not
ages.
sleeping that much anyway. So let's be I got 6 hours of sleep on the plane. I'm great. Yeah. That's solid. Doesn't matter what time it is.
That's 6 hours of sleep in a row in like months.
Yeah, that's all good. That's all I need.
That's it. I think really appreciate you guys having you on. This will air tomorrow, so get excited for that.
Cool.
Really appreciate you guys making the time to come over, and really, by the way, actually, huge congratulations on the last round of Seating Fund. I think that's incredible.
Thank you.
You guys are doing God's work over there, so keep going.
Because of our awesome team, so shout out to them. And thank you for having us. Like, what an honor. Great to meet you in person.
Yeah,
right?
So cool. Yeah.
Go online, and now we're here.
Yeah.
Now we're here.
That's great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was awesome, guys.
Talk soon.
Thank you. Ciao. Okay. Day 3.
Day 3.
We just came to the end.
Yeah, we got through today. It's been good. It's been really good. This is like really the first day I would say that we had.
Our first day.
Yeah.
I think I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's been, we slept decently.
Yeah.
I think we could start there.
Yeah.
I thought that was important.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I think we kind of found our groove a little bit.
Yeah.
We still had a lot of activities. We got a lot of great interviews that we did today. But, you also got to spend some time with some of the talks. So that kind of stood out for you?
Yeah, well, we talked earlier about the CMO forum. I got in the afternoon the chance to go to the B2B presentation from LinkedIn with Jan and Mimi and Dr. Marcus Collins, who I'd never actually heard before. He was great.
Was it
awesome.
good?
Yeah. Super engaging, really interesting guy. Just captivating delivery presentation. He's really good.
No, that's good. Well, we divided and conquered. So
Right.
I was able to take on the compound creativity with Andrew Tyndall.
Yeah.
It was basically kind of a panel. Andrew kind of like kicked it all off, but then Les Binet discussed like a lot of the media side of it and the effects. But then we had
and I saw Sarah Carter.
Sarah Carter, exactly. That kind of helped tie it all together on the creative side.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting to see how it all comes together. And, I'm going to just pull up a couple notes because I thought it was interesting. We often talk about compound creativity, the notion of ad wear out and things like that. Andrew had this one slide that's like, ads wear out for marketers, but they don't wear out in general, essentially, right? And I think we have to be reminded of that a little bit. Like we're talking about pressurized A&P environments that we're all operating in. It becomes difficult to shoot everything that you want.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the well. Like, there's likely something there that you can use.
Like, and I caught Sarah's part of the presentation
Right
where
there.
she was giving examples of how, like, Marmite is a client of
Oh
theirs.
my goodness, yeah.
And they've been running on the same creative platform for 20-ish years.
Yeah.
It was pretty interesting to see. But it's more about the refreshing the creative than it is completely starting from scratch. I thought that was
And I think
really
that's
important to think about, because there's so many ways you could, a new client or new agency, a new CMO, like, you could just blow up everything, a new brand, you could always do that. But I think the actual really strong play is to stick with a creative platform and just iterate off it.
I think that's, we often talk about this, like being able to create a brand platform that has longevity.
Yeah.
Right. And when we're talking about that compound creativity aspect of it, there's elements of repetition that go in. But repetition also help build mental availability.
Right.
So it just seems that, oftentimes, again, I don't want to be just, using broad strokes here for all six intents of, for the conversation's sake. But I think where we struggle sometimes is, as marketers, we'd like to see something new, something shiny.
Yeah.
We want to leave our own
mark, so to speak,
on things, and we want to disrupt.
Yeah.
But disruption doesn't have to be uprooting everything.
Totally.
Right, and I think that's where we kind of lose the mark a little bit.
Totally. Same, and as an extension of the B2B side too, it didn't talk about that so much, but one of the things is in B2B, like, buying cycles are often much longer.
Yes.
The buyers, the hidden buyers, often have as much influence on the final decision as the actual economic buyers.
Yeah.
And so one of the things there that's really important to think about, but the hidden buyers kind of pop in and out over a 2-3 year cycle. You don't know when they're going to come. So one of the huge things about that is, in terms of creativity and consistency, is that if you don't have that consistency, it's like you're reinventing yourself every time for each of these new buyers as they
great point.
come into the market or into the decision-making process.
That's such a great point.
And one of the biggest things they found in the research is that confidence in that, like, I'm not going to get fired for buying this is a big driver.
Yeah.
And so, like, having people that all agree, oh yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes
like,
sense.
There's other people that have used it like us. Like, those kinds of things are actually a way bigger influence on the buying decision process.
Yeah, I
as
agree
opposed
with
to
that.
the performance of the actual
Yeah.
thing that you're buying, the SaaS product or whatever. It's rarely about that.
No, it isn't. Another thing that's really starting to stand out to me, like, I don't know, we're only 3 days in, but, there's a lot of talk on the media side.
Yeah.
And maybe it just happens to be some of the sessions we were able to attend. But at least for me, that's really ringing true, that from a media perspective, we have to be better and start really thinking about how we're looking at seeability versus just viewability.
Totally.
Right. And I think it came out of the compound interest conversation. It came out of the cost of dull with Karen Essefield and Adam Morgan. And it's putting almost like a spotlight, not in a positive way, but in like, hey guys, this needs attention. Yeah. There's a lot of media out there. There's a lot of digital platforms. Yeah. How are you holding them accountable? Yeah. And it's just that's one big thing I'm taking back. And I know that for sure. But is there anything else that's been kind of catching your eye here that you're like a consistent theme that are at least in the back of your head, like, man, I really got to scratch that itch?
Yeah, I started writing a little bit about this for a post that we'll do, but I think there's like this idea, we talk about balance, short and long term. It's not either, it's both. Right. But there's also a lot of things around a balance or the power of it. But it's in all kinds of things. It's, being brave, but also being humble. Yeah. Not to say those are exact opposites, but there's balances there where you want to take creative risks, but you also have to be humble and think about, like, what is the actual impact of this going to be, and not over-promise on what it can do.
That's a great point.
There's a whole bunch of like this just and stuff that just keeps coming up over and over again that it's not media, it's not creative, it's right? It's both,
media and
right?
creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Matthew and Connor talked about that today as well, right? Yeah. And I think that it just goes back to, I think some really recent research on the work, the multiplier effect. I think it's finally landing. Yeah. At least Maybe
here.
we're a room of marketers,
Yeah.
right? And everyone here is probably like guiding. But I think there's a lot more that we can do, make sure that we're taking that back to our respective clients, our organizations, to help really build that. Instacart, Matthew talked about, it was Connor that talked about Instacart and how they were a performance marketing engine. That's all they did. And they went, within 3 years, they went to just doing Super Bowl ads. It's not that they got incremental money, they just shifted. Right, and they're, from a growth perspective, they're like the darling right now of our industry. So it shows that you just sometimes just making these subtle differences or these changes. And I know we always want more funds, but they're finite, and we don't have that. Many brands don't have that luxury.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Anyway, I would say overall, it's been super interesting. I can't wait for the next couple of days. But
no, we got a couple more.
I'm glad we're starting to get our feet under us now.
Finally.
Yeah.
So we'll leave everybody with a couple sound bites. One's from Jane Osler. She is the Chief Insights Officer from Kantar.
Right.
And then we had an early one this morning.
Steve from Zappi. Yeah.
Steve from Zappi.
Yeah.
Kind of let us know what they're thinking. Thanks for keeping us to your ears. Stay tuned for the next one.
Bye. We're here with Steve from Zappi. Steve, I wanted to ask you, we're here at Cannes. You can't tell this is Cannes, but this is Cannes. You guys have recently come out with a creativity effectiveness report.
Yeah.
We're in Cannes. We're talking about creative. Can you maybe give us a bit of the highlights around that report?
Sure, yeah. We've looked at over 4,000 ads. We've talked to over 1.5 million consumers around the world, trying to understand what is really driving effectiveness. We did it with our partners, VaynerMedia, who really helped us embed those ideas and that insight into the media landscape and into advertising today. And what we're really seeing is, we've seen it before, it's emotion. We have to create emotions with our brands.
Yeah.
I know there are so many different advertising platforms, so many different ways of talking about your brand, but you really need to generate emotion.
Yeah.
And understanding that through every sort of execution is really what brands need to do.
There's a lot of interesting things in the report too, and we won't get into all the details, but there's a reference to Paul Dyson with Kantar, some of the stuff he did. I saw some of the report findings, had similar findings in terms of like the distinctive assets and the ability to use creative as itself as a tool for impact. There's different cohorts that you looked at as well, age groups and demographics, and is it really like emotion is the main thing across all of that?
Emotion is the main thing. It's what ties people to brands. It's what you can create. You can create a campaign that people will look at and notice, but not necessarily driving that long-term brand equity that companies need to do. Sure, you need short-term sales in this type of environment with this, the world at the moment. We need to be able to help our brands drive short-term sales, but you want to also layer in long-term brand success.
Right.
Otherwise, it's going to fall apart in a year or so.
Yeah.
So, and it's emotion that ties people to brands.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, thanks, Steve. By the way, is there anything else that you're really excited about here at Cannes for the rest of the week?
Rosé mostly.
Thank you. That's it.
All right, welcome back. We're here with Jane Osler, Chief Insights Officer at Kantar. We've been having some conversations behind the camera, but we know there's some key themes that you're coming out of Cannes with.
Yeah.
Would you care to share with any of them?
Yeah, sure. I think the first one really is about creators.
Okay.
Like, they've been on the rise for many years. We know that the challenges that CMOs, that marketers are having with creators when they increase their budget, but it almost means that we need a new set of rules, a new set of connected engagements.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, and the difficulty is that the fragmentation, the execution, a lot of that actually isn't within the marketer's control.
No.
So, we need a new set of rules. We all know how to create high quality advertising, or hopefully most of us do here.
We like to think so, at least.
We like to think so. But I think with creators, it's a different animal.
Right.
We know that creator spend is increasing. Very high profile companies have announced that they're going to spend large proportions of their media investment budget on creators.
That's a great point, yeah.
And it's the briefing and the understanding and the impact of effectiveness, which obviously is very interesting to us. We've been measuring creators for quite a few years, and you can look at it in, is it a short-term impact, is it a long-term brand impact? but there's also an equity exchange or a value exchange. And I think that's one of the things that we've been talking about quite a lot and has been the topic of conversation here as well.
That's a great point, and I think you touched on a little bit the notion of relinquishing control. And I think as brand stewards across the all the different organizations want to try to protect that as much as possible, but that exchange of equity becomes really paramount if you want to come up in an organic and somewhat truthful way.
Yeah, exactly. And we see lots of examples of clients that we've either spoken to this week or we did our own awards earlier on Monday night actually, where a lot of the examples of high performing ads were actually creator ads on platforms like TikTok, for example.
Well, we're looking forward to you releasing the other 4.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, everybody. We'll get them to everyone, but thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
This is awesome.